Your Excellency, well, as far as I know, the peace process, nevertheless, is on the way. You're meeting your Azerbaijani counterpart regularly. At the end of October, I think, you had a meeting with the Azerbaijani foreign minister. Well, is there any sign of compromise? And what kind of compromise could Armenia agree on? Well, for example, there is a question, can the Azerbaijan territories outside the territory of Nagorno-Karabakh, occupied by the Armenians, be returned to Azerbaijan, and under what conditions? I think this is one of the key issues, isn't it?
Look, the package we're negotiating includes all issues pertaining to the resolution of this conflict. First and foremost among these is the issue of the status of Nagorno-Karabakh. One should not forget that this is the main issue, the main problem. This conflict started not because Armenians were controlling Azerbaijani territories, because the Armenians of Nagorno-Karabakh were opting for self-determination. And Azeris tried to suppress these calls for self-determination militarily. That's why the conflict started. The territories, the refugees, the security problems, those were the consequences of Azerbaijani aggression against Nagorno-Karabakh to suppress their peaceful calls for self-determination. This is the core of the issue. Unless the status of Nagorno-Karabakh is resolved, the other issues will not be resolved. But territories, refugees, of course, will be resolved once there is an agreement on the status. So we're looking at this whole complicated issue in a package. So we're negotiating today, first and foremost, the status, which is based on the right of people of Nagorno-Karabakh for self-determination. Yes, we're talking about territories, we're talking about refugees, we're talking about security measures. So this is the package today, and this is a good package. The document on table today, which is called the Basic Principles for the Resolution of the Nagorno-Karabakh Conflict, is a balanced document. It provides the right trade-offs between all these elements that I mentioned.
Says the Foreign Minister of the Republic of Armenia, Vartan Oskanian. Spotlight will be back shortly after a break, so stay with us and don't go away. Welcome back to Spotlight. I'm Al Gurnov, and just a reminder that our guest today is the Foreign Minister of Armenia, Vartan Oskanian. Your Excellency, well, we've discussed the Nagorno-Karabakh issue, which is one of the burning issue, and the reason, well, to finish with the regional problems, and I want to ask you a lot of questions since you mentioned these world strategic issues that you are discussing in Moscow. Another question about another one of your neighbors, about Georgia. Well, Armenia is the member of the CSTO, and Georgia, being your neighbor, is looks willing to join NATO. What is the character of Armenian-NATO relations, and how does Armenia react to these efforts?
Well, of course, we are a member of Collective Security Treaty. That's an important treaty for us. It's the cornerstone of our security, because, as I said, the main axis of this treaty is our bilateral military cooperation with Russia. We're also developing good ties with NATO. One does not contradict the other. With NATO, we are in IPAP program, and we're benefiting from the opportunities that are being provided by NATO expertise. They're helping us in peacekeeping preparation. We have a political dialogue. So all this come to complement our military cooperation with Russia, and also our membership in the Collective Security Treaty organization. Our neighbor Georgia is willing, and they've made it public, to be a member of NATO. Our general approach to this issue is that each country has the right to decide what kind of a security arrangement they would like to make for their own security, as long as that does not create a dividing line in our region. That's one thing that we need to avoid, because after all, our intention is to maintain peace and stability in our region. If one country joins an alliance, the intention of that joining should be peace and stability, right? But the consequence of that joining bring dividing lines to our region that will hurt and harm that purpose. That is, we will not be able to achieve peace and stability. So even if we go in two different directions as neighbors in terms of our alliances with security organizations, we should be able to have a dialogue between us so that we avoid the creation of dividing lines in the Caucasus. That will be the most dangerous thing for the region, and no one will benefit from it.
Okay, a different question, a different issue. What's your reaction on the recent comments coming from the American Congress about the sensitive issue of the Turkish genocide of Armenians back in 1915? How does it influence the U.S. relations with both Ankara and Yerevan?
Well, we think that issue should not affect neither American-Armenian relations nor Turkish-Armenian, because that's an issue between U.S. congressmen and their constituencies. This issue was brought to Congress's attention by the Armenian community in the United States, who are American citizens. They have the right to raise this issue with their congressmen. We did not understand Turkey's reaction to this resolution, and also the blackmail that they subjected to the United States in the case of the passage of this resolution. I don't think Turkish response was commensurate with the issue. While we're not directly involved, we are concerned about Turkey's interference in the United States internal matters to stop the passage of the resolution. We ourselves, as government of Armenia, are not part of this process. We would like to see also Turkey stay out of it. Turkey has been conducting a policy of denialism of Armenian genocide for so long. They do it within their country. That's their prerogative. But exporting that denialism to other countries and blackmail other countries to not discuss this issue is not acceptable.
Minister Oskanian, another potentially explosive matter is also the situation around another one of your neighbors, around Iran, with the U.S. administration not having ruled out the military option in relations with Iran, around Iran. What is the position of Armenia on this issue?
Well, let me first say immediately that we hope that it will not come to military action, because that will be disastrous to everybody, including the United States. That's the worst of all options. We think everybody should remain on the peaceful track, negotiating track. We need to give diplomacy a chance. Iran needs to be engaged rather than confronted. And we shouldn't rush into making judgments about Iran's intentions. We've just seen and read and heard about CIA report about this program.
But it didn't seem to change Mr. Bush's position, did it?
Well, that has not. We hope they will review their policy. They will continue to consult others, EU, Russia. We need to show prudence in this, because the issue is so sensitive and so dangerous that if we rush to conclusions and engage in preemptive measures, everybody will be hurt from this. Armenia is a neighboring country of Iran. We have good relations. We have common interests. We're building a gas pipeline from Iran to Armenia. So we're extremely worried about these developments. The military option, as I said, could be disastrous, but also sanctions will hurt Armenia, because we're a member of the international community. If there are UN Security Council sanctions, we will be obligated to comply. And that certainly will hurt Armenia's economic interests with Iran. So our purpose here to see that Iran and the international community sit down and be open about both their intentions and purposes and try to reach a negotiated settlement. There is a chance for diplomacy. That has not been exhausted.